Thank you ever so much for joining me and my viewers on this little exercise we're doing here, this little recording talking about coincidence. It's so kind of you to give up your time to do this.
It's my pleasure. My pleasure. Looking forward to it.
Lovely. Now, the thing that I'd like to ask you first before we start talking about your coincidence is the significance that coincidences had in your life as you were growing up. Do you recall any significance being given to coincidence or synchronicity?
I don't I don't recall any particular kind of incidences of coincidences or synchronicity that stand out to me, to be honest. Growing up, no.
So, did you have any lucky charm or anything superstitious that you would carry around with you, or that any relatives would use as a way to feel luckier or to feel things were going to go their way?
I think as a child, you have your comfort kind of things. But growing up, I don't think that there was anything particularly. When I was growing up, I probably wanted to feel more secure in myself. Sometimes you develop certain habits, maybe to do with counting to help with that. But other than that, yeah, there was nothing else I can think of.
So, you didn't used to see magpies and think one for sorrow, two for joy, or anything along those lines?
No, I wasn't superstitious in that way. No, I always believed in God. I always had a very close relationship with God growing up. But other than that, I wouldn't say I was particularly superstitious about things like magpies and things like that.
Okay. So, the first coincidence that you recall, how old were you when you first noticed these events?
First coincidence. Well, there was a main coincidence that happened when I was about 20. So 20, and I'd just gone to university, which was in a completely other town. A good two, well, I suppose it depends on how you get there, but really far. I went to the local supermarket, and I was walking towards the local supermarket. Someone just said my full name whilst looking directly at me, and it turned out that this person was my cousin. And I just happened to meet him outside this supermarket in this completely different town I'd never been to before. I was actually just there because I was, at university. And he actually lived abroad in a different country. And I was more kind of local. But yeah, that was quite a coincidence. And it's strange, isn't it? I didn't think much of it at the time. But then when I look back, and we didn't really keep in touch because we weren't really close, didn't really know each other, even though we were cousins. That was quite a significant coincidence. And I think that God, like that's like an act of God, isn't it? Bringing us together. That's at that point. It's what you do with it, isn't it? And I didn't keep in touch. You didn't keep in touch, but it was pretty amazing, to be honest. Really, really quite diabolical, really, that we were able to cross paths at that very moment.
At that exact time. And can you remember how you were feeling at the time? Were you feeling sort of alone or away from home? I can imagine being at uni, that must have felt you were sort of estranged from all your family, and then you go out to the shop and there's a family member standing there. Can you remember how you were feeling?
I was definitely feeling all those things like alone, isolated, a bit out on the limb, all those kinds of things. Yeah, definitely. That's how I was feeling. It's not like I had a real connection with this cousin either, because apart from that initial meeting, well, by the time I came out to the supermarket, he had gone. It was just a chance meeting, and it ended at that. There was no follow-up or anything. Didn't ever see him again.
It was a fleeting meeting, but
A
do
fleeting.
you like the way that rhymes?
Yes, I do.
It was a fleeting meeting, but did it lift your spirits as you went into the shop? Did it make you feel different?
I think I was quite dumbed down in my feelings at that time. And I think that that time of life as well was quite a difficult one at that time as well. So possibly it should have, but like I said, he wasn't in a place to kind of do anything with the relationship. I wasn't really in a place to do that. It didn't go any further. It's just something I remember thinking was quite remarkable.
Mm.
And I told my mum about it as well. Yeah, I think it's a shame that we didn't do anything else with it. We didn't kind of keep in touch.
And how did your mum take the news when you told her?
She was quite shocked, actually. She was shocked. It's quite a random meeting to happen, so she was very shocked about that. Yeah.
What are the chances?
Absolutely, absolutely. But then I think that that's how it goes with like the higher power that looks after all of us, is that nothing is too great for the higher power. So I think we are mere kind of beings in the grander scheme of things. There's a greater hand at work, I feel.
So it felt like, or it feels to you now, that a higher intelligence was at work to orchestrate that connection and that meeting between you two.
Yes, absolutely. Otherwise, like, how else can you make sense of it? Really, how else can you make sense of it? So many supermarkets. He could have been going to any particular one. I could have gone to any particular one of all the times in the day and all the days in the week and in the month. So how comes we ended up going to this very same one at the very same time? You know, how come?
No, there's no explanation for it, is there? It's not easy to explain.
That's why you then have to say, yeah, it must be like a higher power or something. That's the only thing that could possibly make sense. And then the higher power does its bit and then retreats, and then it's up to us what we do with that. Now, me and my cousin clearly decided not to do anything, but that was our choice. The kind of road was laid for us.
Yeah, and there was a junction point at that meeting. You both just
Mm,
went back to your ordinary lives. It's like a sliding doors moment where that was the opportunity for you to do something different, and you both
yeah.
chose not to. Mm.
Yes, yeah. Actually, it's one that's just come to me, and I wouldn't say it's a coincidence, but it's something that's always stuck with me. I was on a tube with my daughter, and she was really young at that time, maybe about 7 or so. And the tube just happened to be empty, save for another man and another kind of woman. And I remember feeling like there was magic in the air. I just remember feeling this sensation of magic. It was really an alive feeling. And it's like the four of us that were in that tube at the time were sharing some kind of energy. And I remember just feeling this special magic. I remember the other guy that was there was looking at me and my daughter, and in a way that kind of said, I see you, or even like I feel this energy as well. Something like,
Some sort of
yeah, some kind of
recognition.
recognition. Yeah. It was really a safe kind of like gaze from him, and something of like an excited gaze, something kind of like expectant. He was clearly looking towards us, and I was kind of acknowledging him. I think I felt overwhelmed by the energy. I didn't really want to quite acknowledge him or the other woman. Then I got to my station and I left. Didn't say bye to him, didn't say bye to her. I left. And I always remember that sense of, gosh, that energy. But I think that it was at a time when I was telling myself I wasn't able to kind of acknowledge it, but it doesn't actually take much to say, wow, I see you. And isn't this interesting? People are people. If you start a conversation, 9 out of 10 people will respond, won't they? But I didn't. I wasn't brave enough to do that. And I wasn't horrible either, but I didn't give that. It's like sharing a time and a space and an experience with someone,
Mm.
and you don't fully acknowledge it
Mm.
for what it is, which was really quite special and amazing. Although no words were shared at all, it was just the energy. It was kind of expectant. It was something magic about it. I've never felt that way before, but I hope to feel that way again.
Feeling
And
alive. Is there a feeling
it
aliveness
was it
about it?
was something there, and it was completely orchestrated by a higher power because nobody else was there. It was just the four of us, and it was like even the woman that was there was kind of looking at me, looking at him. She knew something was up as well. But and also my daughter was really small, so I don't know how aware she was, and I certainly didn't ask her. She probably would have said something if I had, because they feel things, don't they,
Mm.
children?
It had an impact on you that you remembered it.
It had a real impact. I remember leaving the tube thinking that was something amazing that I didn't fully appreciate or kind of acknowledge. But that was really amazing. And next time I'd like the opportunity to say, I really feel this energy. My name. Oh,
Oh, there we go. I've got to edit that out. Edit.
so mark the time so you can edit it.
Oh, that's so funny. I'm really,
Yeah.
really working hard here not to say your name, and then you go and say
And then I go and do it.
it.
Yeah, I think next time I'd just like to say, okay, my name is so and so. What's yours?
Would you really? You
Yeah, I'd
just
like
introduce
to be
yourself.
brave next time. Introduce
Mm.
myself.
This
Yeah,
is my progress through understanding coincidence. It's that acknowledgement at the time, and people find that very difficult to do because either they're not noticing the coincidence, like the meeting with your cousin. Can you remember what you saw to take you back to that? I'm sorry. Can you remember what you said to him? I don't suppose you can because it was too long ago now.
well, probably it's just like hello. How are you? That kind of thing. I remember what he said though. He
Go
said
on.
something like, "This has been my dream to meet you."
What?
I know.
That's
Yeah,
a strange thing
said
to
it's
say.
yeah, so that yeah, only in my dreams did I imagine I would meet you. Yeah, that is an interesting thing to say. Yeah, and again, I think I didn't really particularly give it much time or energy or attention, and I probably would have just greeted him politely and then been on my way.
Next time someone says it's been my dream to meet you, what are you going to do?
If it's appropriate, I'll stay and have a
That's a
conversation at
really
least.
interesting thing for him to say, isn't it?
Very interesting. And it's even interesting that I remember what he said after all this time. But yeah, I do remember him saying something like that.
It really had an impact on you. And this is what I'm getting at. It's that feeling that these experiences have with people. You have to ask yourself, why is this happening? Sorry, I probably will keep coming back to that because I'm just mind blown by the whole, the sequence of events and all the moving parts that had to be in place for you two to have met. And then
Exactly. When I started to kind of run my business, it was like 2000 and maybe say about 10 years ago or so. Yeah. And I used to go to a lot of networking events. And there was a particular woman I met, and I wanted to use her particular services. Then when I was working and I was kind of based in kind of Essex at that time, kind of Essex, East London border at that time. I went to work and I was working for a big organization in North London. And I happened to kind of like leave the building, think I was going home, and this woman was there. And I remember saying to her, "Oh, hello, we had a meeting. I met you at this network event, blah, blah, blah." I said, "Oh, yes, absolutely. I remember." So we were talking, and just so random, I met her outside this building in North London. And another time, I went to South London. I was going to visit some family. Got to the kind of high street, and I thought, oh, let me just pop into this shop. It was like a clothes shop. And I popped in the shop. And there she was again. But this was
no,
South London now, and this random
no.
shop. And I was so shocked to see her there. I was like, hello, what are you doing here? And
One
she
of
and she
his
was like,
following each
gosh,
other.
oh, I'm just here visiting a friend of mine who's having a baby. But I met her in this random shop. And I said, okay, well, we're going to have at least a third meeting randomly, to get the full set, Yeah, those were two coincidences with this person. Yeah, that was really very, very random.
And what did she say? Was she shocked as well?
Well, yeah, honestly. Yeah. Because if you consider that where we had met before was on like the Essex East London border, that area, then all of a sudden outside my workplace in a random other town, North London, we meet outside my workplace there. Then also on a complete nothing to do with work, I'm there visiting family, she's there visiting a friend in South London in a random high street and a shop there. Of all the shops, of all the high streets, of all the places, we end up at the same time at the very same one.
Again, what happened? Did you go on to have any sort of connection afterwards?
Oh yeah, we did some work together.
Mm.
Actually, yeah, we did do some work together, and she was lovely. But I've not kind of seen her or worked with her probably for about 5 or so years now. But
Now that
yeah,
is unbelievable, isn't it? So, because I believe that if that happens, then clearly you're destined to have some sort of connection, and working together would be the expected outcome from that.
yeah, yeah.
That's brilliant. I love that. I love that coincidence, because that
Mm,
is
mm.
bumping into people when you don't least expect them. I've got a whole chapter in my book about that.
So this next coincidence is kind of linked to the one with my cousin. Yeah,
Yeah.
I I was working in like this high street chain store. So as a teenager, I worked there. The first day I walked into the shop, which was my first day starting, the security guard called me by my full name. Yeah. And normally, I don't have that. And so I looked at him as if to say, like, do I know you? Who are you? And he explained that he had grown up with my cousin, and this is the same cousin I would later meet
At
at
you.
uni at the supermarket. Yeah. But also just staying with this security guard. Prior to working in this particular store where I met him, I also had worked in another um, high street chain, and I'd met somebody there who kind of liked me. Yeah. And I ended up leaving that particular store rather quickly, so I didn't get to say bye to this guy. Rather, when I started working in this other store where I met this security guard, it happens to be that that guy from that other one shop that liked me and this security guard were friends. And so when once so the one from the other shop came to this one where I was now working with the security guard, that's when he saw me and said, "Oh, you didn't say bye when you left." And I said, "Yeah, blah blah blah." But him and the security guard were friends.
What are the
Yeah.
chances of that?
Yeah, they were friends. But also staying with the security guard as well. So not only did he know the cousin I'd later meet, and he knew this guy from the previous store that I'd worked at, but another time I was kind of just waiting at a bus stop. And if you consider that, say, this store that I was working in was in central London, I was waiting at a random bus stop in South London,
Mm.
and he just happened to be driving past, and he stopped the car and he said, "Oh, hello, blah, blah, blah. How are you? Blah, blah, blah." And we just got talking. But yeah, isn't that coincidence again? Our paths
Again,
had crossed again.
some people are meant to be in your life. Something. Yeah.
But he's not in my life now.
At
Like,
all. No.
apart from that, what happened when I went to uni however many years ago. Yeah, I've not met him since, but that's probably something to do with me because around that time, like I said, I was quite cut off. So emotionally, I probably would have just said hello and probably turned away and just did other things. um I wouldn't have acknowledged him so much. So looking back, I think that there was a part of me that really wasn't able to acknowledge things, and maybe that's something to do with these coincidences. Apart from the woman in the shop that I also met in North London and I saw in this random shop in South London, I mean, I certainly acknowledged her and we worked together for a while, and that came to a natural end. But yeah, I think with maybe something to do with certain guys, I'm just not good at acknowledging them somehow.
So interesting, isn't it? I
Yeah,
find that fascinating. I love that idea. Like, there he is. I bet he couldn't believe that he'd seen you. And not only did he see you, but he pulled over. His cars, he's
absolutely.
driving South London, pulling over at a bus stop is not an easy thing to do, is it?
No, not at all. Yeah, yeah.
So he was in the moment, because for someone who isn't in the moment, they would have driven past and thought, "Oh, look, there's someone standing at the bus stop. Oh, look, I could have stopped and said hello. Oh, no, I've missed it. It's gone." But he didn't miss it. He saw you in advance. So he was
Mm,
really alert and aware to what was going on, enough that he could pull over and stop and have a conversation. And it's like I was
yes,
saying
definitely.
earlier about the process of recognizing, well, what are you going to do with this coincidence? Like, asks me for the way. And I used to just not know, or I did know, or I tell them and didn't mean anything. And then you go through a process thinking, hold on, I'm being asked for the way again to a place that means something for me. And it's that process of realizing, hold on, this has got meaning, and recognizing it at the moment. So
Mm,
when someone asks you for, a place that they're going to, you have to stop and have a little conversation about it. And then more information comes out, and then more coincidences and connection come out. And gives it more meaning. But you have to be really switched on and aware, like you're saying, about this idea of introducing yourself and saying hello to a person at the time, knowing that, oh, this is all meant to be happening because it feels like the right thing to do, and being
yes,
aware of, oh, this is what's happening here. But like you say, not being emotionally switched on would lead you to just dismiss this event as nothing meaning
absolutely. Yeah, not realize the significance of it, isn't it?
at the time.
Mm.
And I think a lot of people, when they do have a synchronicity, they're so sort of shocked and stunned by it that they miss the outside information. Like, what is that
Mm.
message trying to bring you?
Yes, yeah. And going with another um, fellow student at uni, we went to try and find a church. And I saw this particular sign on a street directing me towards kind of turning right to go and find this church. We got to the church, or what we thought was the church, and they weren't very receptive, so we didn't go in, me and this friend. And then another time I was walking down the high street, and I saw the same sign, and I followed it again. And something told me, carry on walking. Maybe that sign isn't for this particular church. And then that's how I've came upon the spiritualist church, and they were so receptive, so welcoming, and it just spoke to my way and my belief in a higher power. And that, yeah, that was really my solace at uni,
Oh, how
that
lovely.
church. Yeah, it
Mm.
really was. It really, really was. And I don't know if you can describe that as a coincidence, but I would say it's definitely a voice saying, no, go down, follow the sign and keep
Oh,
going. I
it's a
really
hunch.
remember it really clearly. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a
And
hunch.
yeah, and it made such a difference to my experience at you because I had that comfort. And so, and it was interesting because I remember the president at the uni saying, sometimes I wonder how comes you're all coming here at the same time. And I'd been going for ages, loving it. They were doing different things, little circles and things like that. And she says, yeah, I wonder how come you all started coming at the same time. And I said, oh, so wasn't this always going on before? She said, no. So I came at the right time, as did the other people. And we were like a little community. And it was really lovely, just really comforting. Everyone was really accepting. And it was like a place that I had where I just didn't have any judgment and I could just rest and have peace. And it gave me a lot of peace. The
So lovely,
only
isn't it?
person or entity that could have orchestrated that is a higher power.
Exactly.
And yeah, I would say that it really was my saving grace at that time.
And all those people walked together at the same time. What are the chances of everyone descending on that little church when
Yeah,
there was another church nearby that wasn't so welcoming? How close was the
exactly.
other church? How far away was it?
I would say like literally 100 yards.
Wow. See, that
Yeah.
first experience could have been enough to put you off, but because of your hunch to keep going and follow the
Mm,
sign, one step further and you found what you were looking for.
yeah, I
Amazing.
did. I did. Yeah. So that's lovely, and then wherever I've ever gone, whatever town I've lived in, I've always looked for a spiritualist church because I find it so peaceful. I love
Yeah.
all the readings, I love the mediums and contacting, loved ones that have gone. It's just something that I feel just makes so much sense to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the healing and the singing and the praying. I like the
Yeah.
praying, and you just get a sense of calm, don't you? And it's very
Mm.
difficult to explain what that feels like if you've never had the experience. But so, anyone watching, if you feel like trying it, go and visit your local spiritualist church. Enjoy the congregation, enjoy the peace and energy that comes from people who are praying. Because a lot of people are there that haven't got problems or issues or the, any need, but they're there to fill up other people's cup. So if you are in need or you're feeling as if you need a hug from someone, there'll be someone at Spiritualist Church that will be happy to give it to you, won't they?
Yeah. And there's lots of different spiritualist church. So if you go to one and you'd rather try another one, you can always do that and find one that's kind of, sits comfortably with you.
Yeah, find one that fits. Yeah.
Mm.
and there's always someone there with tissues usually. Have you noticed? Because there's often people cry because it can be very moving, both the music and praying and talking to people that have passed over. It brings up a lot of emotions for people. And that's a
Definitely.
lovely safe space to be able to express that.
It is lovely.
Thank you. I was going to say your
Yeah.
name then, but I managed not to.
Unlike me.
So, question then. Have you ever had any strange dreams which have then sort of come true? Have you had any sort of prophetic dreams or premonition type situations?
I have. One that comes to my mind is I remember I was going on a date, yeah,
Mm.
and I had a voice that say to me, if he says this can lead to a relationship, don't believe him. Yeah. If he says this can lead to a relationship, don't believe him. Something along those lines. And it's interesting because me and this guy, then we were talking, and then he said that. And I remember thinking, first of all, that isn't really appropriate in this situation. Secondly, I heard a voice tell me that if the man says this, is not to be trusted. And it's funny because when I heard that voice, it really was really like somebody standing next to me speaking, really that clear. And so when he said that, I thought to myself, okay, I won't trust him.
Wherever that voice or that thought or that warning came from, of all the millions of phrases that he could have used during that day, the chances of him saying that to you
Yeah, yeah,
can't be ignored,
absolutely.
can it? You can't ignore that.
Exactly, exactly. And also really made it so plainly clear that he had said that to be manipulative. But yeah, so that was something revealed to me. Oh, I mean, I've got another coincidence.
Well, go on.
So I've
If you've
got to
got
go
time, if you've
soon.
got
Yeah,
time, yeah, go on.
yeah. So basically, there's been an issue going on with a local school. Yeah, I have been aware of a young child close to me who's been impacted by that school. When I was at work, one of my colleagues spoke of how she's aware of this is a colleague that supervises me. She's aware through her work of a young person that she works with who's also been impacted by the same school. And then in part of my work with somebody that I have been working with, I have become aware of another young person impacted by the same school. So call that a coincidence, but I'm kind of um, feeling like I'm in the center of like people I work with who have clients that have been impacted by the same school.
And the
And isn't it
information is
coincidence
being
that,
brought to
yeah,
you because you're the person that can do something about it. Yeah.
yeah, I do actually believe that. The last one I've got is how this is another something else that happened when I was at uni. I actually went back to visit one of the professors. It just so happened that a friend at the uni, and this was after the uni was done as well. I just happened to go back to visit a professor. It just so happened that a friend that I had been quite good friends with at the uni happened to pop in to see the same professor at the same time. And that's a really big coincidence because by this time I'd long left the uni by about 3 or 4 years and hadn't really had contact with this friend in all that time. He just happened to pop in to see the professor at the very same time.
No way.
So that's the last of the
That's
coincidences that I've
unbelievable,
got.
isn't it? All that again, the moving parts, the choice of that day. Why was it that week?
Absolutely.
Why was it that day you chose to go?
Exactly. Yeah, of all the people we knew, we
Incredible.
chose to visit the same person at the same
Same
time, 3 or 4 years after we'd
later.
known each other.
And
It's
what happened with
amazing.
that connection? Did you stay in touch?
No,
Okay,
because
are we
that is
learning
my
something from
habit.
this?
Yes,
Are we
that
learning
is my
something from this
habit.
pattern? Is
You
there a
know,
pattern emerging? Can
there's
we
a
do?
pattern emerging,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Okay.
Because
Can
yeah,
we
it's
do
not that I
something?
didn't try, it's just that it just didn't work out. I mean, I didn't try straight away, that's for sure. But another time when I tried to kind of contact that person, you know, he wasn't particularly receptive. Not that he was rude, but just not particularly receptive.
No.
And so it kind of died a death, really. I'm happy to say that I'm hopeful that I'm much more kind of receptive and, willing to follow through with connections than I was
Hmm.
10 years ago or whatever it was now.
I mean, it's
But
really
yeah, it
funny
is
when you think
interesting.
about our connection because we bumped into each other in the high street. Do you remember?
I
There was a
remember
wood
you.
day. You were on a bicycle going somewhere.
That's
And I was
it.
I wasn't supposed to be there. I was taking a purse back to a police station that somebody had abandoned. Obviously, it had been stolen from somebody. And I was trying to locate it. I've just remembered what had happened. When I bumped into you, I said, because they had a membership card for a retail store in a high street. And I
Mm.
said to you, oh, I've just gone into that retail store in the high street to see if they can relocate this, put this purse back with its owner. That's the same retail store that you used to work for.
Oh, is it?
Hmm.
Oh, okay.
So
Yeah.
funny. I know I've only just made that connection and then I had to take it to the police
Mm.
station. But what was I doing there? I wasn't supposed to be there. I was just trying to get a purse back to its owner, right? At that took time for us to bump into each other. And now here we are. So I
Mm.
love that little coincidence. Makes me happy.
Yeah. Yeah. So how's it been for you then, having us doing this and you're interviewing me?
It's amazing. It's really lovely. It feels very surreal, honestly, to be sitting here and, there's nothing required from me apart just to enjoy listening to the stories and just
Hmm.
being able to put it out there for other people to enjoy as well.
Yeah.
I'm going to say thank you. Thank you so much for your time. And then I'm going to click the stop recording button. Okay. So thank you ever so much. And if there's anyone listening who would like to ask any questions or if they've got any follow-up or any opinions or anything they want to say about any of these stories, or if they want any information about their local spiritualist church, then please just do contact me. And you can contact me on Instagram at Tastastic Silver. I will put a little link in the description. And thanks ever so much for being here. Take care. See you soon. Bye for now.